We all remember recess growing up in school. Recess was a time of day where you could have all the conversations that you could not have while in class. Recess is where you had the real conversations. And real conversations we're going to have. In each episode of the Recess podcast, I'm going to have real conversations explaining students and school. I'm David McGuire, and I'll be your host. It's recess time, y'all. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. Happy rainy Thursday if you're in Indianapolis. But it's the Recess podcast, and we're back. This is episode 33, creeping up on a year, coming up April 7th. But tonight, I have a great guest and a great show. We're going to talk about an amazing initiative, program, culture change, a mindset that's happening in the city regarding education and teachers. And we're going to talk about a conference that's coming soon, and make sure you're going to hear about that. But as always, like I always say, the Recess podcast, we're going to have a real conversation. And if you're listening, like this, share this, follow us on Twitter at the Recess Podcast 1, like Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube page, do all those good things. But first, check in. How you feeling? 1 to 10, how you feeling? I think I'm a 10 because I'm above ground and my family's healthy. I'm probably a 3 because of the rain. Sara and I were just talking about the weather headaches that we had today. And so I'm sure some other folks felt that as well. But we're going to have a great show because this show is episode 33 and it's Teach Indy Now. And we're going to talk about what that is. So first, before we do that, Sara, before we talk about Teach Indy, just tell the folks who you are. So I know who you are. And for the folks that don't know, who's Sara Marshall? Who is she?
Yeah, well, thanks, David, for having me on today. And congrats. I can't believe it's already been a year. Like, it's gone so quick. Well, I'm Sara Marshall, and I currently serve as the Senior Director of Talent at the Mind Trust. At my heart, I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a fierce equity warrior. And I spend my time really thinking about how to improve teachers and help support teachers thrive in Indianapolis. I also am a sports advocate and sports junkie. My whole family's downstairs watching the Butler basketball game. So if you hear anything, that's probably what it is. And part of my job at the Mind Trust is to support an awesome campaign called Teach Indy, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. But it is a great program because it is a partnership between the Mayor's Office of Education Innovation, OEI, and the Mind Trust and our great team, as well as IPS. And so we do a lot of work to just improve the landscape for teachers.
I think that's the big piece, right? Improving the landscape for teachers. And I think I talked about, I'm pretty sure, to me, I think it hits on 2 things. The recruitment of teachers, which we'll talk about with the conference, but more importantly, the retention, right? This idea of celebrating and providing spaces for best practices and resources and collegiality, right? Across schools and across networks and across the city. I think all of those benefit. And when you have an organization that's streamlining that, that's great. And so we've been waiting for this. I remember the early conversations of it. And it's amazing to see it come to fruition. So you queued it up. Teach Indy Now. Like, what is it, right? So we kind of give folks the real gist of what it is. And I'm going to put the website on a share screen as you're talking, but what is Teach Indy Now?
Yeah, so Teach Indy Now, like I mentioned, is kind of a joint campaign between those 3 organizations. And it's been in the works since 2018, where we launched really with this vision of recruiting educators, just like you mentioned, to Center Township, especially teachers that are more experienced. And that was kind of the original focus. And as we've continued with Teach Indy and really try to listen to the voices of teachers, we've heard it's great to recruit people here, but how do we keep them here? How do we keep them engaged? How do we connect them to the community in a powerful way? So we get at what you were mentioning, David, this retention piece that is so important. I think the other thing that I'm really proud about with Teach Indy is that we really have tried to be very nimble. So a year ago today, right? Or a year ago in a couple of days, tomorrow, can't believe it, right? We started this whole pandemic that I know a lot of us were like, it's going to be a couple weeks, right? Like, we'll be back after spring break. And then all of a sudden there was this realization of we're not going back anytime soon. Right. And so at Teach Indy, we really shifted focus to not just be about recruitment, but also about resource sharing, because in that transition to e-learning, folks weren't used to teaching online. And so last year around this time, we added a lot of resources to the page that are still there to help support teachers. So we went from just being a recruitment arm to also being like, how do we support people? How do we share resources that are important? The new website also has a couple other new great things. The website has been revamped as of October. But we've got some information about, all of the schools, regardless of school type in Center Township. We've got some resources. And then we also have an active job board for folks to find that just right school for them. So you'll still see that like recruitment piece that's been foundational, but you're going to learn a little bit about the schools. You're going to see what, what makes them special. That's something that's really, really important to the work. And again, it's sponsored charter schools, it's innovation schools, and it's district-run schools.
And Sara, while I know folks were talking about that, I'm gonna put up the school page, right? So school leaders, parents that are listening, if you're looking for a school, I'm gonna show some love to a good friend of mine, Eddie Ronhell, and his school out of alot. So this is what you can see, right? Like when the school page, information page, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So lots of information about the school, what makes them special, and like some of that basic information about when they're open. You also get to see the leader. And as we continue to add to this page, we'll be adding even more information about what's coming up at that school, maybe their social media handles, etc. You also have the ability to navigate to the jobs page directly from here so that you can see like, hey, I'm thinking that I want to meet this Eddie guy and maybe he's got a job at this school. And I can go and I can search out if I'm a school teacher or even an aspiring leader. I can click on jobs and apply right here from the platform.
I'm going to click on another one, just the job page. My doctoral colleague friend, Mary Amos. So
there you go.
Global Prep, right? And there it is. So if you're a teacher, right, looking for a job or looking to see what's out there, Teach Indy also has a job page as well.
Yep. The other, maybe two things, David, that I think are great is there's this great section on About Us, where we're listing a lot of opportunities and ways for teachers to get involved across the city. Because one thing we heard from teachers is, especially in this current state, it can be lonely to be a teacher. And how do you get connected to the community? So if you keep moving down this page, there's actually opportunities to engage with our community partners. So our awesome relationship with the college football playoffs that's coming soon. And even further, there's just lots of events. We're trying to make sure that we feature the events that are coming up in the city. So that gives teachers an opportunity to find something to do on the weekend, or if they have time to, volunteer or want to be a mentor, they can find all of that on Teach Indy as well. So that's definitely something that we would encourage people to come and check out. It's just a wealth of information. And then the final thing for now, maybe that I will talk about, David, that I know is really near and dear to your heart, is we have a pretty active teacher blog. Mm-hmm. So up in the top right-hand corner there, you'll see.
There it is.
There it is. Yeah, if you go to the blog, lots of great information here on the blog. And this week, actually, we kicked off our teacher blogger series. So Miss Lydia Glover is our first teacher to blog, and she talks a little bit about her experience teaching in a pandemic at Allegiant Prep. So we're going to have the voices of teachers every 2 weeks sharing their experience on a variety of topics. But for us, it was just so important to take the lead and listen to teachers and help them to get their voice out there.
And again, when we talk about recruitment and retention, right? One of the other aspects I think is great is this teacher blog, right? So you have a teacher here who's sharing her experiences, right? Give grace, be flexible and open to change, find ways to stay engaged. But this is, if I'm a teacher and not sure about, I feel like I can be the only one having these thoughts, right? And these feelings. Exactly. But then I go to this blog and, here's another teacher that is sharing the same thing, right? And getting her voice to be heard. And so I think that is amazing. And shout out to Miss Lydia Glover, who was open and candid about her experience, and for other folks, I think that is awesome and incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really fun to read, and the bloggers come from a variety of different schools, different tenures in the classroom. That was also really important because first-year teachers' experience is really different than maybe a teacher that's been in the classroom 5, 6, 7 years, especially with this pandemic.
Yes.
So lots of differences. I think, one of the most important things, and I've mentioned a couple of times, is the teacher voice component. behind the scenes, Teach Indy also has this fantastic group called the Teacher Response Committee. And I want to give a huge shout out to them. There's 13 educators that are on our committee, and they really just show up and show out every couple of weeks and give great feedback on some of the things that are happening in the landscape. And I think what we've heard from them is like, too often decisions are being made for teachers or sometimes to teachers, and they don't have the ability to, or the agency to like react to that and give feedback. So this group has been great because they've come to the table and said, hey, I like this about this website, but I want to see more teacher voice, right? Or I need more opportunities to connect. And they really helped us to shape what the conference is going to look like. So a huge shout out to this group of dedicated teachers that comes in and meets with us, because I think they have really steered the direction of Teach Indy for the better.
Yeah. And so when you think about Teach Indy and like where it is now, right? How do you see it growing and developing? Before we get into the conference, right? How do you see it growing and developing? What other aspects, and maybe I don't know if you give us a sneak preview of some other aspects of the website that's coming soon or that teachers have mentioned, right? That they want to see that you guys are in the works of putting together.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the site will just continue to evolve as we hear more teachers' voices and more of what they need. We'll bring on new partners that they're asking to really feature as soon as they come forward. But a couple of things, like one, as soon as we are able to, we would love to start doing teacher events, live teacher events. We'll do some virtual events as well, because what we're hearing is teachers just want an opportunity to connect. So I think definitely on the horizon are going to be some events. You know, we love to throw a good event, especially at a sporting event or, at some sort of a venue. So that's definitely something. The other thing we heard is, a place for teachers to collaborate together. And so that's going to be coming in the next couple of months, where there's some sort of like whether it's a teacher community or different groups that folks can join to just share some information, share about their experience even more. When we think about like live events, good question. There you go. We did a day at the Colts. We'll likely do that again, where we're representing teachers, letting them do some fun stuff on the field is our hope. As soon as that's able to be a thing, we're looking at some great book clubs that are across the city, mentorship opportunities where mentor groups could get together in person. What else have we done? Looking at other sporting events, so like things like the Pacers or a day at the IRT, et cetera. So those are some events I think that we're looking at. 2 years ago, when we were in person, we hosted, a great event over at the Delara Car Factory, and folks got to drive the simulators. So I thought that was a good time. So we'll just continue to let that evolve, which is pretty great.
Yeah, I think another thing be interested to see, and some things that my interest used to be was Teach Indy bringing back the bus tours, right, where we were able to visit schools and get teachers, right, to visit schools. And I know now a lot more schools are open, right, to saying like, hey, let's bring a group of teachers over, right, to just to see best practices. So I can talk about best practices, right, but let's see it in action, and it'd be great to get the teachers up there. But I did put up there, because people asked about the website. The actual Teach Indy website is right there. So it's teachindynow.org. So you can definitely visit that as well. And so now let's, yes, I asked you, I missed the bus tours. I used to go on those all the time. It was a good way to see all types of amazing schools. Yeah. I teased my colleague, Julie Bacorn. I told her, it was on the bus tour when I saw her when she was the principal in IPS. I saw her at her school. And so now, the fast forward, now we're colleagues at Tinley. So I tell her that story every now and then. So that she doesn't really remember much of that, but I definitely talk about that. So there's and we're going to get to the question.
Oh, David, I think I lost you.
I kicked myself out the broadcast, moving to the there's a question about parents, and we're going to get to that. But before we get to that, I do want us to talk about the conference. And so we're going to have questions at the end, and we're going to get to that one about the parents. But I want to talk about the conference, okay?
Yeah.
So the conference is coming up, and I'm going to put the ticker at the bottom. So Sara, what is the Teach Indy Now Educators Conference? What is that?
Yeah, so this is the very first time ever we've had an educators conference here in Indy. And, this is a virtual conference. The dates are April 9th through the 11th. I'll talk about the 3 different days, but the long-term vision for this conference is that we just show up and show out in Indy. We recognize teachers, and that this conference continues to be for teachers by teachers. So critical to us that the teacher voice is center with this conference. So the conference has 3 days this year, 3 kind of distinctly different days. So Friday is focused on recruitment. So there's going to be some sessions in the morning on best practices in interviewing, telling your story. And then in the afternoon, there's going to be a virtual hiring event with schools from Center Township. So that somebody could show up and really engage with different teachers, different school leaders or talent hiring folks that are in schools, and hopefully, start down that pathway of securing a job here in Center Township, which is what we're really looking for. So that's the first day. The second day is a development day. And so for the development day, this is where we really are going to showcase the voice of teachers. So we'll start with a keynote. Those are going to be announced here soon. We've got some great folks that are going to be joining us. So we'll have a keynote in the morning, and then we're going to have sessions led by teachers and leaders locally, as well as some organizations that are partners of ours here in Indy. Our teachers asked for 4 strands of conference sessions. So we're going to have sessions focused on cultural competence, social emotional teaching and leading, content and content delivery, and then the future of e-learning. And that future of e-learning is going to be sponsored by and co-led by the Indiana e-learning lab. So we're really excited for those 4 different kind of themes. And then we'll close out with another keynote. And then a lot more fun will be had as we transition into our happy hour. So we've got some happy hour spaces, including a bartender class where we'll send you some of the the fixins. We also are going to do a tea tasting, so that the evening we're going to kind of have some fun together in a more unstructured environment. And then Sunday, so we've got recruitment on Friday, we've got development on Saturday, and then on Sunday we're really focused on rewards and recognition. So we're going to spend some time on Sunday, handing out some teacher awards, recognizing different teachers that have completed their first year of teaching, or 3rd year of teaching, or 10th year of teaching. We want to do a shout out to our cadet teachers that are aspiring teachers, but we just see that day as a community day where we're recognizing and rewarding excellent teachers across our schools.
Yeah. The beauty of celebrating your colleagues, what we were talking about in the pre-show, celebrating yourself, right? There's
exactly.
Teachers, there's nothing wrong with celebrating yourself, especially in a time like I think that is definitely needed. But when you talk about the strands, right, and you mentioned, were those strands selected by teachers? Is that some of the teacher voices you were gathering, these are things they wanted to hear?
Absolutely. I went in thinking of 4 different strands, and when we brought them to the teachers were like, hold up. I don't like that one. This is what we're feeling, and this is what we need to be talking about. So it's great that that we have a lot of, professional development on X, Y, and Z. But these are the 4 focus areas that we really want to learn more from. They were also the ones that said, we want to present to each other. So what you're going to see is a lot of sessions that are led by teachers that are in Center Township, and they want to share their voice, and they're going to bring their own colleagues in for panels. And they're going to do their own interviews, right? And that to us was also very, very important, because they are the experts of what's happening in their classrooms right now. So what better way to let that happen organically than to showcase it? Yeah. So those are definitely, they also help to pick out the swag. Teachers help to identify the giveaways that we're going to be doing. So again, the hope is that we have been good listeners and have really applied the feedback that we've heard from teachers.
Yeah. And so there's a couple questions I want to ask. And first, I want to put up Grace, right? It's on the rise. We're a landing spot. I think people remember back when we hosted the Super Bowl, so we can hold big national events and global events and everything's downtown. But when it comes to education, right, folks know the work that's happening in Indianapolis, in India,
Right.
with charter schools and the rise of school choice and just different things like that. But Teach Indy, this is another aspect. But there was a good question asked, and it goes to what we talked about. And I'm going to put it up here. And it said, will there be opportunities for parents to participate in these events or conferences just to see what teachers go through? And that's the part that people want to know. One, what's the target audience for Teach Indy? And is the events open to anyone, the conference and things like that?
Yeah, so I'll take the Teach Indy question first. So Teach Indy, just by virtue of the partners that initially launched this campaign, really our target geographical focus is Center Township for right now. I always say for right now because we want to make sure that we're able to meet the talent demand that we currently have in our schools, and then we can expand to have a different geographic focus to include more of Indianapolis. That's something I think that's really important to note is this is what we currently are doing. And then as soon as we keep progressing in a positive way, which I think we're seeing good evidence for more teachers staying in their schools here in Indianapolis, and that leads to better outcomes for kids, right? At the end of the day, when we have proficient teachers in classrooms, we know that there's going to be better outcomes academically for students. So that is kind of why our focus is the way that it is currently. With the future, we'll see. I want us to be the premier recruitment city and beyond, right? I want everyone coming to Indy. Then I would say to Ashley's great question about the parents, the conference is open and it is free to anyone that wants to attend, regardless of where you teach, especially that development day. Anyone can attend, and I would love for parents to join. I think it would be excellent. And for those panel discussions and those roundtables, I think the voices of parents is so critical. We're going to have teachers in the space, so let's bring those parents in. So for sure, parents are welcome to come and join us.
Well, Sarah, did you say free? I think we glossed over that piece, right? Like,
we did.
We got to stamp that. This is free.
Yes, this is a free 3-day conference. It's free to register to win a teacher award. It's free to nominate, a teacher. It's also free to attend the hiring event if you're an aspiring teacher and you want to come and check out what Indy has to offer. So yes, 3 days, and it is a free conference for everyone.
I think people need to understand the importance of free, because that's tearing down a wall of what can I access this? Will I be able to attend and all this other stuff? Like, absolutely. All you have to do, right, is click on the link, and we're going to get that posted. Register for the conference, and I you know what, I'll share that. But click on the link, register for the conference, and you can attend, right?
Yes, absolutely. And maybe the last thing I will say to Ashley's point that I think is around parents, and that I would love to highlight for families. I'm a parent myself, and I've been watching, our children's teachers work incredibly hard. They have been amazing this year. And if you have a student that is attending one of our partner schools, I would also encourage you as a parent to nominate an excellent teacher for a teacher award. I think teachers are really humble people. And sometimes they, fly under the radar and they don't want to recognize themselves. And we want to recognize those people. So parents, if you have been impacted this year positively by an educator, you can also absolutely nominate one of the teachers that's impacted your child's life or someone in your family's life. Please nominate them for a teacher award. Yeah.
And I'm going to say this to my folks, because I see Ray and Mama Toya, they're on here. They're showing us some love. Listen. This is Teach Indy now, but if there's folks that are in other cities, in other states that are curious about the work happening in Indianapolis, I would encourage you again to click on that link that I had on there, right? Register for the conference so you can see the amazing things, right? If you're an aspiring teacher in another city and you want to say, hey, I want to hear about these jobs in Indy, this is definitely the link to go to. Visit our website. As we mentioned, we put it up there for the schools, the information about the schools, the school leaders, the teacher blog, right? So while it is Teach Indy, it's open to anyone, but it's specific about the things that the work that's happening here in Indianapolis. And that's what's the exciting thing for me, right? It's putting us on the continue to put us on the national map for the work that we're doing. Yep. So the link is in the chat. I dropped it in there. I'll make sure I drop it again, but there's a link for the conference. And I'll drop the link for the website as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, David, if you don't mind dropping the link for the conference, for the actual Teach Indy page, that's where parents can go to to nominate somebody for an award. And that's also where teachers can go to apply for an award. And again, I encourage teachers, take a moment, celebrate yourself. Please do it. We don't do it enough. So I encourage folks to take that courage. You know, you're doing excellent work and you deserve all the recognition. So please take just a couple minutes. Do it over spring break. So that you have, some time to think, but we would be more than excited. We definitely want an applicant from every single school that's on that page. There's 11 times 10, there's 110 schools listed on the Teach Indy website. I sure hope that we get an applicant from every single school, because every school has an excellent teacher that's doing some great things for kids.
Absolutely. So Sara, we got about 5 minutes left. Before we get to the closing thoughts, let the folks know how can they support Teach Indy now, because this doesn't happen without support. And I'm not, we can talk about financial support, but just support. How can I support Teach Indy?
Yeah, I think the best way to support Teach Indy really is to subscribe to our newsletter on our website and to share out on social media about the excellent work that's happening here in Indy by way of Teach Indy Now. There's just so much happening, and it's only going to continue to get bigger, because like I said, I want this conference to be full stop the best conference in the Midwest. We have visions of thousands of educators descending on downtown Indianapolis, just like they would for this college football playoff that's coming up. Like, this needs to be where we're celebrating teachers. So we would love for people to share our posts, to share the link for nominating awards, and for, and just to retweet, post, tag us, and then read our blogs and really respond to our teachers, give them some love as they're becoming vulnerable. Like you said, Ms. Glover really shared her heart. And so if you like what she did, give her a shout out, because she's in the classroom every single day, doing what she does in her kindergarten classroom with her amazing scholars. So again, I think just make sure you're visiting the website. If you've got a resource or a suggestion, we're open to it. Drop that on the page, and then register for this conference, because as David mentioned, it is a free conference, and we would love to have as many people as possible attend. Yeah,
you can't beat free. Not at all.
No.
I want to share, Sara, if you don't mind, a really quick story about my interaction with Teach Indy Now. So most of I'm a principal at Tinley Summit, which is a charter school in Indianapolis. It's a mayor-sponsored charter school, which is one of the partners with Teach Indy Now. But this summer, like everybody, we were doing e-learning and summer school. And one of the things that we asked parents to do, right, was create a school space in your home. Well, with that, you have to have supplies to do those things. And for a lot of our parents, right, because we were still in the midst of a global pandemic, right, the priority of buying pencils and crayons and rulers and paper and those things weren't at the top of the priority list, because I'm trying to keep the lights on and keep food in the refrigerator. And the folks from Teach Indy stepped up tremendously, not just for schools, but I'm going to share particularly for my school. I was able to get, 2 boxes, I think, Sara, of a bag, a large Ziploc bag that had paper, crayons, pencils, rulers. I think one had a protractor in it or something, right? And I was able to give that to our families. Yeah. But the piece that I would really appreciate was when we started the first day of school in person on August 17th, I saw probably 30 or 40 kids bring that back to school, and that was their school supplies. So not only did those supplies help them in the summer, but it allowed them to start school in person. And so I want to, as a school leader, on behalf of Tinley Summit and our families, thank Teach Indy and the partners for supplying those, because those were a big help to us. And that's just a small piece of how Teach Indy is supporting schools and families and students. So thank you to you for leading that, and all the partners as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for, stepping up and receiving the gifts, and really for sharing the feedback that school supplies were something that was needed. I think that's the hope of Teach Indy, is that we continue to meet the needs of our teachers in our community. And so in order to do that, we have to be great listeners. And when people say, I need something, we're going to step up and try to do it to the best of our ability. So huge shout out to Teachers Treasures and the College Football Playoff that helped us with that big project, as well as the Crane Bay Event Center that helped us to make 15,000 homework kits over the course of a couple of days, but it's going to take a village. And that's really what we want to provide for our teachers, is an opportunity to get connected and to find their forever home here in Indianapolis.
Absolutely. So Sara, final thoughts, right? Close out. What do you want to leave people with? We're going to share this link. It's a real quick, 30-minute show for folks to listen to, and we'll cut it up and things like that. But what do you want to leave folks with as far as closing thoughts around Teach Indy, the conference, or the other things that's happening?
To my teachers in Indianapolis in particular, you all are absolute champions. And I am so thankful that we get to continue to support you and do the work. Thank you for everything that you're doing for our students. That's the most important thing that I can say, is thank you. We hope here at Teach Indy that we are continuing to support you in the ways that you hope to be supported. And we are very excited to be celebrating you, learning alongside of you, and helping you find your forever place here in Indianapolis at this conference on April 9th through the 11th. Please visit the website, register, share, and don't be afraid to step in and nominate a friend or apply for an award, because you absolutely deserve it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And again, you see it at the bottom there. If you want to learn more information, obviously visit the website. But Teach Indy is on a variety of social media platforms. So that's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow them at Teach Indy Now. That's Teach Indy Now. You can follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Sara, thank you for coming on. Thank you to the folks at the Mind Trust and IPS and OEI and all the partners in the college football playoffs and Teachers Treasure for all the work that you guys are putting in. The conference is free, April 9th through the 11th. And I don't know, you guys might see the Recess podcast at the conference. Who knows? We Sara and I are going to talk. You might see us at the conference. We'd love to be a part, at least even if it's just sharing about the conference, or at the week after the conference, doing a show with presenters and guests and facilitators. We would love to do that as well. So thank you again. Thank you for the folks that tuned in. Catch me next week at the same time. Next week's topic will be called Teacher Burnout, because we're getting Q4, and I've talked with a lot of teachers about teacher burnout. So next week's show will be about teacher burnout. But I did want to say, to close the show, many of you know in Indianapolis, tomorrow marks a 1-year anniversary. And I double checked. I think it was 4:55 p.m. when the governor and the mayor came on to shut down schools. So tomorrow, if you're in school, just make sure you just celebrate and remember that day, how far we've come in a year, how much we've accomplished, but also remember those that have been impacted, those that lost their lives, and those that lost relatives. So while we're also celebrating how far we come, we want to make sure that we pay homage and respect to those that lost their lives or lost loved ones during this time. We're not quite there yet, so I encourage people to continue to stay safe, follow the guidelines. If you choose to get vaccinated, do that. But ultimately, just let's all work together to keep each other safe and healthy so we can get back to those live events. So the conference in 2022, we got 1,000 folks, Sara, marching downtown,
absolutely,
celebrating teachers. So again, thank you again. And as always, as we say at the Recess Podcast, create the platform, control the conversation, change the culture. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.